How often can humans mate? Asked the alien princess. She wasn't ready for the answer. The sky above New York shimmered unusually that morning. Most people ignored it at first, thinking it was a trick of sunlight on the high glass buildings. But for Dr. Samuel Reyes, a biologist at the Manhattan Institute of Advanced Studies, it was something more. A sleek silver spacecraft hovered silently above Central Park, reflecting the morning sun like liquid metal. "Not another drone," muttered Samuel, rubbing his eyes. He had spent decades studying animals, humans, and everything in between, but this was different. The craft descended slowly, landing gently on the grass. The air shimmered faintly, and for a moment the city felt like it had paused. From the hatch emerged a figure unlike any human Samuel had ever seen. She was tall, lithe, and moved with the grace of a dancer. Her skin shimmered with a faint iridescence, shifting between soft gold and silver in the sunlight. Her eyes were large and deep like polished opal, reflecting the world with a mixture of wonder and calculation. She wore garments that seemed woven from light itself, flowing and elegant, yet clearly functional. Around her, a small entourage of similar beings descended, scanning the park with careful precision. Samuel's heart raced. Was this a diplomatic mission, scientific, or something else entirely? A small device on the princess's wrist beeped, and she turned her gaze toward the humans gathered, her head tilting slightly in curiosity. "Greetings," she said, her voice melodic but firm, speaking in flawless English, though with an accent that made every word feel foreign and musical. "I am Lyra, Princess of Zenthra. We have come to learn about your species, particularly your reproductive habits." The scientists froze, the joggers stopped mid-step. Even the pigeons seemed to pause in mid-air. There was a moment of silence, as if the world had collectively stopped to process what the alien princess had just said. Samuel blinked. Then, against all professional caution, he cleared his throat. Could you clarify what you mean by reproductive habits?" Lyra tilted her head, her opal eyes gleaming. "I wish to understand how often humans mate. It is a matter of great curiosity in my court." Samuel felt heat rush to his face. He could barely believe the question had been asked aloud, and here it was, coming from a being of another world. But beneath the embarrassment, there was a spark of fascination. Humans had always been studied, behavior, biology, emotions, but never had an outsider asked so directly. Before Samuel could respond, a young woman from a nearby research team, Dr. Karen Lee, stepped forward. She was pragmatic and quick-witted, the kind of person who could handle awkward situations with grace. "Princess Lyra," Karen said, bowing slightly, "humans' reproductive behavior is more than just biology. It involves emotions, social bonds, and personal choice. It is not something that can be reduced to numbers alone." Lyra's eyes widened as if this explanation were entirely new. "Emotions, social bonds, explain." Karen took a deep breath. "Well, humans form relationships in many ways. Some are romantic, some are friendly, some are familial. Desire does not always lead to immediate mating. We value consent, communication, and emotional connection." The princess's expression was thoughtful. She tilted her head, letting the words sink in. "I see. Fascinating. So humans do not mate purely for survival. There is intention, pleasure, and emotion." "Yes," Samuel said, regaining a fraction of his composure. "Exactly, we are complex." Lyra's entourage murmured among themselves, their voices soft and harmonic. Samuel noticed that the other aliens seemed impressed, almost reverent. He felt a strange pride swell in his chest. Humans were indeed unique, not just in biology, but in the way they experienced life, emotion, and connection. The princess walked closer, examining Samuel and Karen with a curious intensity. "And this complexity, is it universal among humans?" Karen nodded. "Mostly. Culture, society, and individual personality influence how humans interact and form bonds. We are not all the same." "Every human is unique." Lyra's eyes shimmered. "Unique, yes, I like that. In my world, survival is the primary concern. Bonds are practical, functional. We do not indulge in pleasure as humans do." Samuel swallowed hard, feeling the weight of those words. Humans were capable of something alien to most of the galaxy, combining intellect, emotion, and creativity to create relationships that were more than survival. HFY, humans were special indeed. Lyra stepped back and raised a slender hand. A holographic display shimmered in the air between her and the humans. It projected scenes of alien life, agricultural pods, energy transfers, and carefully regulated mating cycles. She turned toward the scientists. In my court, she said, the frequency of reproduction is calculated, scheduled. There is no improvisation, no whim. Humans, you are chaotic in this way. Why? Karen smiled, sensing an opportunity to educate. Because humans are curious, we explore, we experience. We learn from pleasure and mistake. Chaos is part of our strength. It makes us adaptable, creative, and resilient. The princess seemed to consider this carefully, her opal eyes narrowing in thought. Adaptable, resilient, capable of learning from pleasure, intriguing. Perhaps humans are more capable than we assumed. Samuel couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Humans had faced countless challenges, from environmental disasters to wars, and yet here they were, surviving, thriving, and even entertaining the curiosity of alien royalty. There was a spark in their chaos, a unique drive that was difficult to measure but impossible to ignore. Lyra's attention shifted suddenly. Can I observe humans closely? I wish to understand your courtship, your rituals, how you choose mates. Karen hesitated, then nodded. You can, but with respect. Humans value privacy. Observation must be ethical. The princess inclined her head. I understand. We wish to learn not to interfere. As the day progressed, Lyra wandered through the city, guided by the scientists. She watched humans interact in cafes, parks, and offices. She observed laughter, arguments, cooperation, and compassion. She saw the small gestures, holding hands, sharing food, helping strangers, that humans seemed to instinctively understand. And she saw the subtle signals of attraction, glances, smiles, touches. Humans were messy, unpredictable, and beautiful. Unlike the precise, calculated mating cycles of her own species, humans seemed to experience joy in the process itself. By evening, Lyra returned to the park, her entourage trailing silently behind her. The sun dipped below the skyline, casting golden light across the city. She turned to Samuel and Karen, her expression thoughtful and almost wistful. I had expected simplicity, she said quietly. I did not expect this. Humans are not just biological machines. You experience, imagine, create. You are extraordinary. Samuel felt a shiver of pride. We like to think so, he said, smiling. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, the alien and the human seemed to share a quiet understanding. It was not about mating alone, not about biology. It was about what it meant to be alive, to feel, to connect, to choose. Humans were chaotic, yes, but that chaos was their strength. As night fell over New York, Lyra looked up at the stars, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. She had come seeking simple answers, and instead she had found complexity, emotion, and a kind of brilliance she had never anticipated. And she knew, without fully understanding why, that her journey with humans had only just begun. The next morning, the city of New York seemed oblivious to the small silver craft hovering silently above Central Park. But inside, Princess Lyra of Zenthra was awake early, studying her notes and the human habits she had observed the day before. She was eager to learn more, but also a little perplexed. Humans were unpredictable. Their behavior did not follow patterns or schedules. Every glance, smile, or gesture seemed full of hidden meaning she could not yet decode. She stepped out of her ship, her flowing garments shimmering in the soft morning light. Her entourage followed silently, scanning the humans below with quiet precision. Samuel Reyes and Dr. Karen Lee were already waiting, trying to anticipate the questions Lyra might ask today. Good morning, Princess, Karen said. Ready for another day of observation? Lyra tilted her head, her eyes glinting like polished opal. Yes, but first, I have more questions. Yesterday you explained that humans do not mate for survival alone, that you experience pleasure, emotion, and attachment. Can you elaborate? Samuel swallowed, suddenly feeling very self-conscious. Well, humans mate in different ways. It depends on attraction, emotional connection, and sometimes just curiosity. Lyra's eyes widened. Curiosity? You mate because you are curious? Karen laughed softly, shaking her head. Not exactly, but humans are very curious by nature. We explore new experiences, ideas, and yes, sometimes relationships are part of that exploration. Lyra frowned slightly, trying to understand. So, you sometimes mate not for survival, not for bonding, but for curiosity. Samuel rubbed his neck. Yes, it can be complicated. Humans do not always act predictably. The princess seemed both fascinated and confused. Fascinating, chaotic, yet there is meaning, Karen nodded. Exactly. Humans attach meaning to our experiences even when they seem random. That is what makes us unique. Lyra paused, looking at Samuel with sudden intensity. And consent? You mentioned consent yesterday. Explain this. Samuel hesitated. Consent is agreement. Both parties must agree to be together to engage in a relationship or mating. It is very important. Humans value it deeply. Lyra's expression shifted to one of admiration. Ah, I see. Respect. Choice. These are not universal. On Zenthra, mating is mandatory for survival. The court decides. We have no choice. Karen leaned in slightly, sensing an opportunity to teach. Humans value freedom. Choice makes the experience meaningful. Without it, pleasure and connection are empty. The princess tilted her head, considering this. Choice, freedom, emotional depth. Humans are far more complex than I imagined. By late morning, Lyra and her entourage had moved to a bustling outdoor cafe, curious to observe human interaction. She watched as people laughed, talked, and gestured wildly with their hands. The way humans used language to convey humor, tease each other, and create connection was entirely new to her. Why do humans speak so much? She asked, almost to herself. Is it necessary for bonding? Karen smiled. Yes, communication is part of building trust and connection. Words carry meaning, emotion, and intention. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Fascinating. On Zenthra, bonding is silent, actions only, emotion is inferred. Humans, your words are powerful. A young couple sitting nearby caught Lyra's attention. They held hands, leaning close, laughing together. Their eyes met, bright with affection. Lyra tilted her head, studying the interaction carefully. Do humans always show affection openly? She asked. Not always, Samuel said. Some people are shy, some show it differently. But expressing affection is common. It helps form trust and attachment. Lyra nodded slowly. Trust, attachment, emotion, so even chaos has structure. Karen laughed softly. In a way, yes, humans are messy, but there is meaning in the mess. Suddenly, the princess's device beeped, and a small holographic projection appeared, showing scenes from her court on Zenthra. She frowned. Look at this, she said, pointing to the display. Mating is scheduled, predictable, uniform. Efficiency is prized. Humans, you are inefficient, Samuel shrugged. We are inefficient sometimes, yes, but that inefficiency leads to creativity, to innovation, to new experiences. That is part of what makes humans special. Lyra's eyes widened with a mixture of awe and confusion. Innovation, creativity, you risk mistakes, chaos, this is dangerous, Karen nodded. Sometimes it is, but humans learn from mistakes. We grow stronger, we adapt. That is why we survive. The princess seemed lost in thought, her gaze drifting over the busy city street. I did not anticipate this. Humans, you are paradoxical, fragile and strong, chaotic and wise, messy and extraordinary. As the day progressed, Lyra attempted to interact more directly with humans. She tried small gestures she had seen yesterday, smiles, bows, and even attempting a handshake. But humans, in their variety, sometimes misunderstood her. One man, thinking she was waving playfully, waved back enthusiastically, startling the princess. She recoiled slightly, her eyes flashing with surprise. Karen chuckled. It takes time. Humans are unpredictable. Sometimes gestures are misread, but that is part of the learning process. Lyra sighed. So humans are difficult to understand? Samuel smiled. Yes. But that is what makes us interesting. The princess nodded slowly. Interesting, chaotic, unpredictable, powerful in ways I cannot yet comprehend. I like that. By late afternoon, Lyra decided to visit a human library. She was fascinated by how humans collected knowledge, recorded history, and expressed ideas. The quiet hum of study, the rustle of pages, and the soft whispers of students felt almost sacred to her. Humans, you value knowledge, yes? She asked. Karen smiled. Yes. Knowledge, understanding, experience, these are important to us. They shape our decisions, our culture, our relationships. Lyra walked slowly among the shelves, her fingers brushing the spines of books as if absorbing their energy. Information, emotion, creativity, unpredictability. Humans are not just creatures, you are forces of nature. Samuel and Karen exchanged a glance. Humans were messy, chaotic, emotional, and clever, and the aliens were finally beginning to see it too. As evening approached, Lyra returned to the park with her entourage. She sat on a bench, gazing at the skyline as lights flickered on across the city. The humans she had observed today were complex, vibrant, and unlike anything in her orderly, structured world. Karen approached, sitting beside her. Princess Lyra, you seem thoughtful. Lyra smiled faintly. Yes, I came seeking simple answers. I wanted to know about human mating. I expected simplicity. What I have found is complexity. Emotion, chaos, choice, creativity. I am not sure I am ready to understand it fully. Samuel chuckled softly. It takes a lifetime. Humans are full of surprises. The princess's eyes glinted with curiosity. Surprises, yes, perhaps that is why you survive. Perhaps that is why you fascinate me. As night fell over New York, the city lights sparkling like stars mirrored on Earth, Lyra felt something entirely new. She had come as a student of biology, seeking answers to a simple question. Instead, she had discovered the heart of humanity, unpredictable, messy, emotional, and brilliant. And she knew that tomorrow would bring more surprises, more lessons, and perhaps even a deeper understanding of why humans were unlike any species she had ever encountered. The following morning, New York woke to the gentle hum of Lyra's silver spacecraft gliding quietly over Central Park. The Princess of Zenthra, still fascinated by the humans she had observed, was eager to see more. Yesterday's lessons in human chaos, curiosity, and emotional complexity had left her mind buzzing with questions. Today, she wanted to understand the ingenuity of humans, the way they solved problems, adapted to challenges, and created solutions that no structured system could predict. Samuel Reyes and Dr. Karen Lee were waiting for her at the edge of the park. Karen had prepared a schedule for the day, though she knew Lyra's curiosity could never be fully contained by a timetable. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," Karen greeted. "Are you ready to see what humans can do when they face a challenge?" Lyra's eyes sparkled like opals. "Yes. I wish to see your ingenuity in action. Show me how humans overcome obstacles." Their first stop was a bustling construction site. Steel beams stretched toward the sky, cranes moved with mechanical precision, and workers coordinated with a rhythm that seemed almost like a dance. "Observe," Samuel said. "Humans can take raw materials and create something entirely new. We organize, collaborate, and innovate constantly." Lyra's eyes followed the movements of the workers. One man shouted instructions while another adjusted a beam. A woman on a crane signaled a precise calculation that Samuel explained involved mathematics, physics, and intuition. "Humans," Lyra said slowly, "you solve problems with movement, language, and tools. It is fascinating. On Zenthra, all construction is automated, precise, and predictable. You create unpredictably," Karen smiled. "Yes, we adapt as we go. Plans change, mistakes happen. But we learn and adjust." Lyra leaned forward, her gaze keen. "Adaptation, improvisation, risk. Humans, you are daring." Next, they visited a small urban farm in Brooklyn. Here, humans had transformed a tiny plot of land into a thriving garden. Vegetables, herbs, and small fruit trees grew together in a carefully planned, yet organic pattern. Solar panels and rainwater collectors were cleverly integrated. "This is impressive," Lyra said, touching a leafy green plant gently. "You work with nature, not against it." Karen nodded. "Exactly. Humans often find solutions by observing the world and working with it. Creativity comes from curiosity, trial, and error." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Trial and error, chaos, and learning. You learn through mistakes," Samuel smiled. "Yes. Mistakes are important. They teach us more than success sometimes." The princess considered this carefully. On Zenthra, mistakes were dangerous. Efficiency and precision were prized above all. But humans had made mistakes into a tool, a learning machine. By mid-afternoon, they moved to a local makerspace, a workshop where humans designed inventions, repaired gadgets, and tested ideas. The room was a whirlwind of activity. 3D printers hummed, robots moved in testing circuits, and humans discussed ideas, sometimes arguing passionately, sometimes laughing at their own mistakes. Lyra watched a young man struggle with a small drone. The propeller kept detaching and he sighed, frustrated. He tried again, making small adjustments each time. On the fourth attempt, the drone lifted smoothly, hovering perfectly. The young man grinned triumphantly. "Humans, your patience, your persistence, remarkable," Lyra whispered. "Even failure leads to progress," Karen nodded. "Yes, humans are persistent. We don't give up easily. Even when something seems impossible, we keep trying." Lyra tilted her head, fascinated. "Persistence, creativity, adaptability, you learn from chaos. Humans are unpredictable forces of change." Later, they visited a city street where traffic had backed up due to a broken traffic signal. Humans, ever resourceful, had begun improvising. Some directed cars with hand signals. Others used mobile apps to reroute traffic. Street vendors moved to avoid the congestion, and pedestrians adjusted their paths. Within minutes, the chaos was managed efficiently, though no single plan had been imposed. Lyra's eyes widened. No central command, yet order emerges. Humans, you coordinate spontaneously, Samuel nodded. Yes, sometimes structure emerges from collaboration, not from rules. Lyra's gaze lingered on a group of children playing nearby. They were building a makeshift bridge over a puddle with planks and bricks. No adult had told them how to do it. No rules dictated their actions. And yet within minutes the bridge held and all the children crossed safely. You teach yourselves through play? Lyra asked, amazed. Karen smiled. Yes, humans often learn by doing, by experimenting, by exploring their world. Lyra's opal eyes glimmered. Exploration, innovation, creativity, humans, you are extraordinary. By evening, they visited a cultural center where humans expressed ingenuity through art, music, and performance. A group of young musicians played a lively tune, improvising together with astonishing harmony. Nearby, painters created murals inspired by community stories, blending imagination with reality. Humans, you solve problems with tools, with thought, with collaboration, and with imagination, Lyra asked softly. Yes, Samuel said. We solve problems in all these ways. Creativity is as important as intelligence or strength. The princess tilted her head, considering deeply. On Zenthra, efficiency is prized. Innovation is limited to survival. Humans, you innovate for joy, for expression, for connection. That is remarkable, Karen nodded. Yes, humans are creative by necessity and by desire. We adapt, we imagine, we explore. That is part of what makes us special. Lyra looked around, seeing humans in all their messy, chaotic brilliance. She realized that their unpredictability was not a weakness but a strength. They could face problems she could not have imagined and find solutions that no logical system would predict. You survive because you embrace chaos, Lyra said slowly. You learn from mistakes, you collaborate, you create, you endure, Samuel smiled. Exactly. Humans have a way of turning unpredictability into advantage. The princess's gaze softened as she watched the sunset over the city skyline. Humans were messy, chaotic, emotional, inventive, and resilient. They were alive in a way that few species could understand. I came seeking answers about mating, Lyra said quietly. I expected simple biology, but instead I find brilliance, creativity, and courage. Humans, you are more than I imagined, Karen smiled. We like to think so, and there is always more to learn. Every day brings surprises. Lyra's eyes glimmered with curiosity and admiration. Surprises, yes. Curiosity, yes. Chaos, yes. Humans, you are remarkable. As night fell, the city lights sparkled like a reflection of the stars above. The princess, still learning about humans, realized that her journey was only beginning. The more she saw, the more she understood that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, dreamers, and creators. And as she prepared to rest for the night, she could not help but feel excitement for the days ahead. There were still mysteries to uncover, surprises to witness, and lessons to learn from the species that was, in every possible way, unlike any she had encountered. Human ingenuity, Lyra realized, was not just about invention or survival. It was about the heart, the mind, and the endless spark of curiosity that made humans human. And for the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known. Awe. The following morning, Princess Lyra awoke in her ship with a renewed sense of curiosity. Humans were not only creative and resourceful, they were unpredictable in ways she had yet to fully grasp. Today, she decided she would explore another human mystery: courtship. The act of choosing a mate, forming bonds, and expressing attraction fascinated her almost as much as their ingenuity and resilience. She stepped onto the park once more, her iridescent garments shimmering in the early sun. Samuel and Dr. Karen Lee were waiting, holding a small folder of notes. Good morning, Princess, Karen said. Today, we thought you could observe human courtship. It's complicated but very interesting. Lyra tilted her head. Complicated, yes. That is often the case with humans. I wish to learn directly. Show me your rituals, your interactions. Samuel raised an eyebrow. Rituals is a polite way to put it. Humans have many ways to show interest or affection. It can involve conversation, gestures, gifts, and sometimes humor. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Humor, yes, I noticed laughter yesterday. It seems important. Karen nodded. Very. Laughter, teasing, shared jokes, they are ways humans bond. The group walked toward a nearby cafe where a young couple was seated on a bench outside. They talked quietly, occasionally laughing and gesturing. Lyra observed carefully, noting every glance, touch, and expression. Observe, Samuel whispered. Humans use gestures and expressions to communicate interest. A smile, a gaze, a gentle touch, these can indicate attraction. Lyra nodded, her attention sharp. Fascinating, subtle, indirect, emotional cues, I understand. But understanding did not make imitation easy. Later, Lyra attempted her first human-style greeting with another visitor at the cafe. She extended her hand in a gesture she had observed yesterday. The human, startled, bowed slightly and then laughed nervously. Lyra's hand hovered awkwardly in the air, shimmering faintly in the sunlight. Karen tried not to laugh. Princess, humans appreciate gestures, but context matters. Sometimes direct imitation can seem unusual. Lyra tilted her head, a faint flush of iridescence across her cheeks. I see humans are subtle, complex. I must learn patience. The group moved to a small art gallery nearby where humans often met, conversed, and expressed interest in one another. Lyra watched a man and a woman discuss a painting. The woman laughed at a joke he made and he gently touched her arm in response. The gestures were small yet full of meaning. Humans, their gestures are symbolic, Lyra whispered. A touch, a glance, it carries emotion, Karen nodded. Yes. That is why patience is so important. Humans do not rush courtship. Consent, communication, and timing are essential. You cannot force it. Lyra considered this carefully. On Zenthra, courtship and mating were scheduled, precise, and functional. Humans were unpredictable, messy, and deliberate. Yet that deliberate unpredictability seemed to hold power. As the afternoon progressed, Lyra decided to participate more actively. She approached a small group of humans engaged in a discussion about music. Carefully, she introduced herself, speaking in her melodic, formal voice. I wish to understand human bonding, she said. I am curious, can you demonstrate? The humans looked at each other, uncertain at first. Then one, a young man named Leo, smiled. Sure. We can show you how humans express interest and connect, but it's a little different than what you might expect. Lyra nodded, eager to learn. I am prepared for different. They began with conversation. Humans used words to communicate not only information but emotion. They teased gently, asked questions, and shared small stories. Lyra tried to imitate, but her precise, formal language made the humans laugh, kindly but unmistakably. You're very polite, Leo said, smiling. Humans usually speak more casually when they're interested in someone. It's softer, more relaxed. Lyra tilted her head. Soft, relaxed, yes, I will try. Next, they attempted gestures. Lyra observed a smile, a slight lean forward, and a gentle touch on the arm. She tried to imitate, but accidentally leaned too close and the human pulled back slightly, startled. Karen whispered, Patience, princess. Humans value space. Too much too soon, it can be overwhelming. Lyra nodded, her cheeks shimmering faintly. Patience, yes. Humans teach patience through interaction. They moved outside to a small park fountain, where humans often met for informal gatherings. Lyra watched children play, couples converse, and friends laugh together. The interactions were spontaneous and unplanned, yet full of meaning. Humans, your courtship, your connections, they are dynamic, Lyra said softly. There is no strict pattern, yet meaning emerges. I admire this. Karen smiled. Yes, humans create structure from chaos. Relationships form through observation, empathy, and shared experience. Lyra considered the words carefully. Observation, empathy, shared experience, yes. Humans, your connections are built through understanding and respect, not force, not schedule. I begin to understand. Later, a musician began playing a lively tune on his guitar near the fountain. Lyra watched as people gathered, dancing, laughing, and moving in rhythm with the music. Some couples held hands, some danced loosely, some simply tapped their feet. Humans, you connect through music, movement, play, Lyra asked. Yes, Karen said. Play, humor, creativity, these are ways humans bond. Emotional connection is as important as physical attraction. Lyra watched intently, trying to understand the subtle cues. A hand held too long, a shared glance, the angle of a smile. She realized that human courtship was not just about desire, it was about observation, patience, and mutual understanding. By evening, Lyra attempted a small experiment of her own. She approached Leo, offering a small flower she had picked from a park planter. It was a gesture she had observed humans use as a token of appreciation or interest. Leo smiled, touched, and accepted it. "That's thoughtful," he said. "You're learning fast." Lyra felt a flicker of pride. "I wish to learn and understand. Humans, your patience, your attention, your creativity, I wish to emulate." Karen leaned in, whispering, "You're doing very well, Princess." Humans, they notice effort, attention, and respect more than perfection. Lyra's gaze softened as she watched humans continue their interactions. Children ran, couples laughed, friends joked. The energy was messy, chaotic, yet full of beauty. Every glance, touch, and word held subtle meaning. Humans' ability to navigate this chaos, to build connection through patience, understanding, and humor was extraordinary. "I see now," Lyra whispered. "Humans, you do not rush. You observe, adapt, respond, learn, and teach patience." As night fell over the city, the lights reflected in the fountain's water. Lyra stood quietly, her entourage behind her, absorbing the scene. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, and clever. They made mistakes, adapted, laughed, and connected, and in their messy, beautiful chaos, they were resilient and strong. "I came seeking simple answers about mating," Lyra said softly, almost to herself. "I expected rules, schedules, biology. Instead, I find patience, respect, creativity, and choice. Humans, you are extraordinary." Samuel placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Humans are special, Princess, not just biologically, but emotionally, socially, and intellectually. That is what makes us unique." Lyra nodded slowly, her eyes glimmering. For the first time, she understood that human connections were about much more than instinct. They were about choice, respect, observation, and growth. Patience was not just waiting. It was understanding, listening, and learning. And as she looked at the humans around the fountain, laughing, dancing, and sharing, she realized something profound. The heart of humanity was not just in its survival, its ingenuity, or its chaos. It was in its patience, its empathy, and its endless curiosity. For the first time, Princess Lyra truly felt that she was learning something that could not be measured by science alone. It was a lesson in understanding, respect, and the quiet, enduring strength that made humans human. And she knew, without doubt, that tomorrow would bring more lessons, more discoveries, and more surprises from the species that had already challenged everything she thought she knew. The morning sun poured over New York City as Princess Lyra and her entourage prepared for another day of observation. Today, she was eager to witness human creativity and culture, not just in their inventions or problem-solving, but in how they expressed themselves, connected with one another, and celebrated life. Yesterday's lessons in patience and courtship had left her fascinated, but she wanted to see humans at their most imaginative. Samuel Reyes and Dr. Karen Lee met her at the park, holding tablets with schedules, maps, and suggested locations. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," Karen said. "Today we're going to see how humans express creativity and imagination. You'll see that our culture is as much a survival tool as our science." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Culture, imagination, expression. I am eager. Show me humans at play and at thought." Their first stop was a community arts center, a large, colorful building with murals covering the exterior walls. Inside, humans of all ages painted, sculpted, and created, their expressions wild, vibrant, and free. Lyra's eyes widened. "Humans, your creations are limitless. So many colors, shapes, ideas, emotions expressed." Karen nodded. "Art is a way humans communicate ideas and feelings. Sometimes words are not enough, so we use imagination." A group of children were painting together on a large canvas. Each child added their own strokes, colors, and designs, yet the final piece was a surprisingly harmonious blend. Lyra tilted her head. "You cooperate through expression yet retain individuality," she whispered. "This is remarkable." Next, they entered a music room. Several humans were playing instruments together, improvising a lively tune. At first, the sound seemed chaotic, but soon a pattern emerged, harmony built from spontaneity. Lyra's gaze followed the movements of the musicians, their eyes and gestures subtly communicating cues to one another. "Humans, your coordination is intuitive," she said softly. "No strict rules, yet perfect timing. How do you achieve this?" Karen smiled. "We listen, observe, and adapt. We combine structure with improvisation. It's the same principle humans use in life, work, and relationships." Lyra's opal eyes glimmered. Structure and chaos intertwined. Humans, your minds are extraordinary. By midday, they moved to an outdoor park, where humans were performing a street theater. Actors engaged the crowd with humor, improvisation, and storytelling. Lyra watched in fascination as humans reacted to one another's gestures, laughter, and timing, adjusting their performance instinctively. These performances, they are spontaneous yet precise, Lyra asked. Yes, Samuel said. Humans often rely on observation, timing, and creativity to succeed. Even play can teach lessons about life, strategy, and communication. Lyra considered this deeply. On Zenthra, performances were scripted, predictable, and formal. Humans created meaning in the moment. They turned spontaneity into art. Later, they visited a makerspace where humans built small inventions using recycled materials, old gadgets, and their own imagination. One young woman had created a miniature solar-powered water filter for urban gardens. Another had built a small robotic arm capable of painting intricate designs. Humans, you invent for purpose and pleasure? Lyra asked. Yes, Karen said. Sometimes inventions solve problems, sometimes they explore new possibilities, sometimes both. Lyra's eyes glimmered. Purpose, pleasure, learning, expression, humans, you combine all these elements. That is strength. By late afternoon, Lyra suggested an experiment of her own. She wanted to share Zenthra's perspective with humans to create a small cultural exchange. Using her technology, she projected a holographic display showing the elegance and precision of her homeworld. Geometric gardens, synchronized architecture, and choreographed social interactions. The humans watched in awe, fascinated by the alien beauty and order. Some attempted to replicate patterns with paint, small sculptures, or improvised music. Others discussed aloud the differences and similarities, laughing, debating, and imagining. You learn quickly from observation and experimentation, Lyra noted. Humans, you adapt and add your own creativity. You enhance what you see, Karen smiled. That's right, humans learn from everything: nature, culture, technology, mistakes, even alien visitors. Lyra tilted her head, amused. Mistakes, yes. I notice humans, even in play, they test, fail, try again, and learn. This is innovation. As the sun began to set, Lyra observed a human festival unfolding in the park. Music played, dancers moved in colorful costumes, and food vendors offered small samples. People laughed, shared stories, and celebrated together. Lyra noticed a couple playfully chasing each other with streamers while children watched, cheering. Humans, you celebrate life through expression, interaction, and connection? She asked. Yes, Karen said. Celebration is a way to bond, to teach, to enjoy. Humans find meaning not just in survival, but in sharing joy and creativity. Lyra's gaze softened as she watched the interactions. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, and emotional. Yet in this chaos, they found harmony, joy, and understanding. Their creativity was not a luxury. It was a survival tool, a social glue, and a source of inspiration. Later, she approached a young couple who had been performing a short improvisational dance. Tentatively, Lyra tried to mimic some of their movements. At first, her precise, elegant gestures seemed awkward among the playful, free-flowing motions of the humans. But gradually she adapted, letting go of some of her formality, laughing quietly when her attempts went slightly awry. You adapt with joy and learning, she whispered. Humans, even in playful imitation, you teach patience, observation, and creativity. Karen nodded. Exactly. Humans learn through doing, sharing, and adapting. Play, humor, and imagination are as important as logic and strength. Lyra paused, looking at the humans dancing, laughing, and creating together. She realized that their unpredictability was not a weakness but a power. They could improvise, adapt, and invent solutions that no rigid system could predict. They celebrated life while learning from it, combining joy and intellect, emotion and observation, chaos and order. I sought answers about mating, Lyra said softly. I expected biology, predictability, routine. Instead, I find culture, expression, imagination, joy, and connection. Humans, you are remarkable. Samuel placed a hand on her shoulder gently. Princess, humans are special not just in biology, but in creativity, culture, and social intelligence. That is why your visit is so important. You see us, learn from us, and perhaps in turn you teach us something about ourselves. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, observation, interaction, adaptation, yes. Humans, your ingenuity, your culture, your creativity, it is endless. I admire this. As night fell over the city, the lights of New York sparkled like reflections of stars above. Lyra stood quietly, watching humans continue their activities. Musicians improvising, dancers laughing, children playing, adults discussing ideas, and strangers connecting through shared experiences. She realized something profound. Humans were not just survivors, innovators, or creators. They were explorers of life itself, curious, emotional, playful, and endlessly inventive. Their ingenuity was not only in machines, inventions, or problem-solving. It was in the way they lived, connected, and celebrated existence. Humans, you turn chaos into meaning, play into knowledge and mistakes into lessons, and imagination into culture, Lyra whispered. You are extraordinary, Karen smiled. And there is always more to discover. Humans are full of surprises, and you're just beginning to see them. Lyra felt a thrill she had never known. She had come to Earth seeking answers about a simple biological question. Instead, she had discovered something far more complex: the heart, mind, and soul of humanity. Their creativity, expression, and adaptability were as vital to survival as air or water. And she knew without doubt that tomorrow would bring more lessons, more surprises, and perhaps even a deeper understanding of why humans were truly unique. Humans were messy, chaotic, emotional, inventive, and resilient. But most importantly, they were endlessly imaginative, able to transform even the simplest interaction into a source of connection, creativity, and joy. And for the first time, Princess Lyra truly understood that ingenuity was not just a skill. It was a way of life, a reflection of the heart, and a gift that humans carried in everything they did. The journey back to the ship felt quieter than usual. Princess Lyra of Zenthra walked alongside Samuel Reyes and Dr. Karen Lee, her thoughts deep and reflective. The humans she had observed over the past days were unlike any species she had studied. They were chaotic yet brilliant, emotional yet clever, unpredictable yet capable of immense structure. On Zenthra, everything had order. Every action, every interaction, every decision followed rules. Efficiency and precision were valued above all else. But humans were different. They created order from chaos, joy from struggle, and meaning from unpredictability. I must report to my court, Lyra said finally, her voice quiet but determined. They will wish to know about humans, they will expect simplicity. I cannot give them that. Karen smiled. They'll want details about biology, mating, survival, but what you've learned goes far beyond that. Lyra nodded. Yes, humans are more than that. They are inventive, adaptable, emotional, resilient, and surprisingly clever. Samuel chuckled. You've discovered the HFY truth. Humans are special because of their heart and mind, not just their biology. As they entered the spacecraft, Lyra activated the holographic communication link to her royal court. The display shimmered with images of Zenthra's regal halls, where members of her family waited with anticipation. Princess Lyra, a voice said from the display, report on your observations. What have you learned about humans? Are they simple, predictable, efficient? Lyra took a deep breath. No, she said firmly. They are none of these things. Humans are unpredictable, chaotic, emotional, and brilliant. They survive not because they are programmed, but because they adapt, learn, and innovate. They create solutions from nothing, and their creativity, their culture, is unmatched. There was a pause from the court as if her words had struck them unexpectedly. On Zenthra, unpredictability was dangerous. Chaos was feared. And yet Lyra spoke with conviction. They rely on imagination, she continued. They invent, explore, and experiment. They learn from mistakes and teach through play, art, and music. They value patience, consent, and respect. Humans, they are remarkable. Her royal attendants exchanged cautious glances. Surely you exaggerate, Princess, one voice said. They are primitive. They lack the structure of our society. Lyra's opal eyes glimmered with quiet fire. Structure alone does not make a species strong. Humans balance chaos with observation, emotion with intellect, individuality with collaboration. Their unpredictability, it is a strength. Their creativity, their ingenuity, it is unparalleled. I have seen it firsthand. Another voice interjected. And their biology. Their reproductive habits? Lyra smiled faintly. Their biology is simple, yes, but their behavior, their emotions, and their culture are what make them exceptional. They form bonds with intention, respect, and creativity. Their connections are not dictated, they are chosen, nurtured, and celebrated. The court murmured among themselves, uncertain how to respond. They had always viewed humans as primitive creatures, useful for observation perhaps, but not worth admiration. Lyra's words challenged every assumption. They survive through curiosity and adaptability, she continued. Through play, observation, and learning, they are resilient, persistent, and inventive. I recommend respect, not derision. A silence fell over the court. For the first time, humans were seen not as simple life forms, but as a species worthy of admiration. Lyra continued, her voice softening as she recalled specific moments. I have seen children build bridges without instruction, learning through trial. I have seen humans use music, art, and humor to connect and teach. I have seen them improvise solutions to challenges I could not have anticipated. They celebrate life, even in chaos, and transform mistakes into lessons. Her court listened, some with skepticism, some with awe. Lyra knew that what she described was hard to believe for beings who prized order above all. They are different, she said. Unpredictable, messy, emotional, yet stronger than we imagined. Humans are not to be underestimated. The holographic display showed images from her observations. Children experimenting with art, engineers building robots, couples laughing, musicians improvising, and playful competitions in parks. Each image told a story of resilience, creativity, and joy. They create meaning from chaos, Lyra said. They adapt, they collaborate, they innovate. Their ingenuity is not just in invention, but in life itself. This is what makes them extraordinary. Her mother, Queen Selara of Zenthra, spoke finally. Lyra, are you suggesting they are superior in some ways? Lyra considered carefully. Not superior in all ways, but humans possess qualities our society undervalues: creativity, emotion, patience, and adaptability. They survive and thrive not through order alone, but through curiosity, courage, and connection. They are remarkable. Another voice asked, and their mating, their courtship, surely this is chaotic and inefficient. Lyra's opal eyes glimmered with amusement. Yes. It is chaotic, it is messy. It is full of laughter, mistakes, learning, and creativity, and yet it works. They form bonds with choice, consent, and connection. They teach patience and observation through these interactions. It is a testament to their ingenuity. The court murmured again. They had not expected a report that celebrated unpredictability and creativity. For Zenthra, chaos was dangerous. For humans, chaos was a tool, a lesson, and a source of joy. Lyra leaned forward, her voice firm. I recommend that we reconsider our assumptions. Humans are not primitive. They are intelligent, resilient, inventive, and emotionally capable. They can teach us about adaptability, patience, and creativity. We have much to learn from them. There was a long pause. Then Queen Selara spoke, her tone measured. You have always been observant, Lyra. Perhaps this is wisdom. Perhaps humans are worth admiration, if not emulation. Their creativity, their ingenuity, it cannot be denied. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. Yes, Mother. And their chaos, their unpredictability, it is a strength. Their imagination, humor, and emotion, they are humans' power. The court was silent, but Lyra could sense a shift. The stereotypes they had held, that humans were primitive, predictable, and limited, were beginning to crumble. Humans were messy, emotional, and unpredictable, yes, but they were also resilient, clever, and endlessly inventive. They deserved respect. Lyra concluded her report with a final thought. Humans are a species of contradictions, chaotic yet wise, emotional yet clever, fragile yet resilient. They create meaning, build connections, and transform mistakes into lessons. They are remarkable. And they are worthy of recognition. The court fell silent again, this time in contemplation rather than disbelief. For the first time, humans were seen through Lyra's eyes, not as simple creatures, but as beings with depth, ingenuity, and heart. As the communication ended, Lyra turned to Samuel and Karen. I have shared my observations, and I feel they are beginning to understand. Humans, you are no longer underestimated. Karen smiled warmly. They will need time to fully accept it, but your report is powerful. You've shown them that humans are more than biology, more than survival, more than chaos. You've shown them HFY truth. Lyra nodded. Yes, humans, they inspire, they teach patience, observation, creativity, and courage, and they surprise me every day. Samuel chuckled. They'll continue to surprise you. That's what humans do. As the day ended, Lyra walked through Central Park, observing humans once more. Children played, couples laughed, friends discussed ideas passionately. The unpredictability, energy, and creativity of humans were palpable. Every glance, touch, and word carried subtle meaning. Their ingenuity extended beyond invention. It was in how they lived, connected, and thrived. Lyra realized that humans had already begun to break the stereotypes held not only by her court, but by many species who underestimated them. Humans were resilient, clever, and capable of learning, adapting, and teaching in ways no structured, rigid system could predict. They are remarkable, Lyra whispered to herself, not because they are perfect, but because they are human. And with that, she knew that tomorrow would bring more discoveries, more lessons, and perhaps an even deeper understanding of why humans were unlike any species she had ever encountered. Humans were chaotic, emotional, inventive, and unpredictable. Yet in their chaos, they found harmony. In their mistakes, they found lessons. And in their creativity and connections, they found strength beyond measure. Princess Lyra smiled, her heart glimmering with admiration. Humans were no longer just a subject of study. They were a revelation. The silver spacecraft hovered silently above Central Park as Princess Lyra prepared for her departure. Days of observation, learning, and interaction had left her mind full of insights. She had come to Earth seeking answers to a simple question about human biology, but what she found instead was a species brimming with curiosity, ingenuity, creativity, and heart. Samuel Reyes and Dr. Karen Lee stood by the landing platform, smiling warmly. They had grown accustomed to the princess's constant questions, her careful observations, and her ever-present curiosity. But they had also learned much from her, the clarity of her thinking, her precision, and the way she approached problems with elegance and logic. "Princess Lyra," Karen said, "are you ready to return to Zenthra?" Lyra's opal eyes glimmered, reflecting the city below. "I am ready to depart, but I will carry much with me. Not just data, not just observations, but understanding. Humans, they are remarkable." Samuel chuckled. "We like to think so. You've seen us at our best, our chaos and our creativity." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, at first I sought answers about mating. I expected simplicity, rules, and efficiency. Instead, I found unpredictability, curiosity, patience, humor, and ingenuity. Humans, you are more than biology. You are resilient, clever, creative, and emotional." Karen smiled. "That's the HFY truth. Humans are unique not just in what we are biologically, but in how we live, connect, and create." The princess walked slowly to the edge of the platform, watching a group of children playing nearby. Their laughter echoed through the park, carefree and bright. Couples strolled hand in hand, and friends shared food, music, and conversation. Lyra observed each interaction with fascination, noting the subtle gestures, the shared glances, the unspoken understanding between humans. "Humans, your connections, your bonds, they are not dictated," Lyra whispered. "They are chosen, they are nurtured, they are celebrated. You teach patience, observation, and empathy through your interactions. You turn chaos into meaning." Samuel placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You've understood what many species never do. Humans' greatest strength is not in physical prowess or predictable routines. It's in our heart, mind, and creativity. That's why we survive, adapt, and thrive." Lyra's eyes glimmered with a faint iridescent light. "I have seen it firsthand. I have watched humans innovate, solve problems, create, laugh, and bond. I have seen mistakes turned into lessons, play turned into learning, and unpredictability transformed into strength." "Humans, you inspire me," Karen laughed softly. "You may not be the only one. Humans have a way of surprising even the most careful observer." The princess tilted her head, reflecting on all she had witnessed. She remembered the children building bridges from sticks and bricks, improvising with creativity and patience. She recalled couples connecting through gestures, words, and subtle expressions. She thought of humans creating art, music, and inventions from curiosity and imagination alone. She had even tried, awkwardly, to mimic human courtship rituals, learning firsthand the lessons of patience, respect, and consent. "Humans, you are unpredictable, messy, emotional, and brilliant," Lyra whispered. "You create meaning from nothing, you learn from chaos, you find joy in discovery, you survive and thrive because of your heart, mind, and will." Samuel smiled. "That's exactly it. And now you understand why humans are celebrated not just on Earth, but as an example across the galaxy. We are messy, yes, but in that mess, there is power, creativity, and resilience." Lyra's gaze shifted to the spacecraft's control panel. A small holographic projection appeared, showing Zenthra's orderly cities, synchronized gardens, and precise social interactions. She compared it silently to the chaotic beauty of Earth, the laughter, improvisation, and joy of humans. A faint smile curved her lips. "My court expects simple reports," Lyra said, her voice quiet but firm. "I cannot give them simplicity, I can only give them truth. Humans are unique, humans are extraordinary, humans are worthy of respect and admiration." Karen nodded. "And you will. Your observations are more than data, they are insight. You've seen what others may never understand." Lyra turned back to the park one last time. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow across the city. She watched people sharing meals, helping strangers, and laughing together. Children chased each other, dancers moved to music, and musicians played improvisational tunes. Every interaction was subtle yet meaningful, chaotic yet harmonious. "They thrive not despite chaos, but because of it," Lyra whispered. "They adapt, they observe, they innovate, they teach, they learn, and they connect. Humans, your power is your heart, your mind, and your creativity." Samuel smiled. "And now you carry that understanding back to Zenthra." Lyra's gaze softened. "Yes, and I hope my people will see humans as I have seen them, not as primitive, not as simple, but as a species worthy of admiration, friendship, and respect." She activated the spacecraft, preparing for departure. Her entourage followed, their eyes reflecting curiosity and newfound respect. Lyra took one last look at the humans below, at the city alive with energy, creativity, and connection. "Farewell, humans," she said softly. "You have taught me more than I expected. You have challenged assumptions, inspired admiration, and shown me the power of curiosity, patience, and creativity. You are extraordinary." As the spacecraft ascended, the city shrank beneath her. The lights flickered like stars mirrored on Earth, and she felt a deep sense of connection to this unpredictable, brilliant species. "Lyra," Karen said gently, "you'll return to your world with a new perspective. Humans are special not just because of biology, but because of what they do with their curiosity, heart, and mind." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, I have learned patience, observation, creativity, empathy, and respect. These are the gifts humans offer. And I will carry them back to Zenthra." The spacecraft rose higher, leaving the city behind. Lyra activated the communication link one final time, sending a brief message to the humans she had met. "Thank you," she said, her voice resonant and sincere. "For your patience, your guidance, and your brilliance. I will remember all I have learned. Humans, you are remarkable." Below, the humans waved, laughed, and cheered. Though they did not fully understand her words, they felt the sincerity behind them. A bridge had formed between worlds, one built on respect, curiosity, and mutual admiration. As Lyra gazed at the stars, she realized that humans were a revelation. Their ingenuity, emotional depth, creativity, and resilience were unlike anything she had encountered. They thrived because they embraced chaos, learned from mistakes, and celebrated life in all its unpredictability. "They are extraordinary," Lyra whispered again, smiling. "Not because they are perfect, but because they are human." Hours passed as the spacecraft traveled through space. Lyra reflected on everything she had observed. Children experimenting, humans creating art and music, couples forming bonds, strangers helping one another, and the endless spark of curiosity that drove innovation and joy. Humans had taught her patience, observation, creativity, and empathy. They had shown her the power of choice, connection, and emotional intelligence. And most importantly, they had revealed that survival was not just about rules or efficiency. It was about heart, mind, and spirit. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt true admiration for another species. Not just as a scientist or observer, but as a being who could recognize brilliance, creativity, and resilience wherever it existed. "My court will see humans differently," Lyra said quietly. "And I will remember them always." The spacecraft passed through the upper atmosphere, leaving Earth behind. Lyra gazed at the planet, glowing with life, chaos, and brilliance. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the humans who had shared their world, for their patience and guidance, and for the lessons that could never be learned from data alone. "They are remarkable," she whispered one final time. "Humans, my friends, my teachers, my inspiration." As the stars stretched endlessly before her, Princess Lyra smiled. She had come seeking simple answers. Instead, she had discovered something far greater, the heart and soul of humanity. And she knew that wherever she went, whatever challenges she faced, the lessons she had learned from humans, their curiosity, ingenuity, patience, creativity, and resilience, would stay with her forever. Humans were messy, chaotic, emotional, inventive, and unpredictable. Yet in their chaos, they found strength. In their mistakes, they found wisdom. In their creativity and connections, they found power beyond measure. And for Princess Lyra, that was a truth worth carrying to the stars.